talk about Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens. Right now, the Baltimore Ravens are 11-5 on the season, and they're one of the best teams in the NFL right now. They are red hot. The last game that they lost was against the Philadelphia Eagles, and they did not get blown out in that matchup, but they've won their last 3 games. Yes, they defeated the New York Giants, one of the worst teams in the NFL, but they went out there and they defeated their nemesis in the AFC North Division, the Steelers, and then they came back just a couple of days later on short week's notice against the Houston Texans. They beat them 31-2. If it wasn't for that safety, they would have beat them 31-0. One of the best wins for the Baltimore Ravens in the tenure with Lamar Jackson and Coach Harbaugh. And you can make the case that the Houston Texans, they're just a bad football team right now, but you can't help who you play. When I look at the Baltimore Ravens this season, you have to go out there and win a Super Bowl. And I said this last year, Lamar Jackson had the weapons on the offensive end. You had Zay Flowers. Mark Andrews missed majority of the season dealing with an ankle injury they suffered against the Cincinnati Bengals. But Isaiah likely came in and he looked like a true starting tight end. You had those key weapons and you lost against the Kansas City Chiefs. And it wasn't all on Lamar Jackson. Todd Monken did not run the football enough and Lamar Jackson did play poorly. But Zay Flowers had a fumble in the red zone. Zay Flowers also had a major penalty that knocked them back for 15 yards. You can't have those type of moments in those playoff matchups. So when I look at Lamar Jackson, this has to be the year. You've now in your career, you have won, not one, but 2 NFL MVPs. And he's going to win another MVP this season. We could talk about Joe Burrow being in that conversation. The same with Josh Allen and Saquon Barkley. They gave Lamar Jackson the MVP last season. And he wasn't even statistically the best quarterback. They gave it to him because of the way that he was changing the game on a weekly basis with the Baltimore Ravens. His numbers this season are better than his last 2 seasons when he won the MVP. As I record this video, 39 passing touchdowns to 4 interceptions. One of the best touchdown to interception ratios in the NFL. 852 rushing yards, 4 rushing touchdowns on the year. And he's averaging 6 yards a rush. He's been one of the best players in the NFL. Right now, you can make the case that he is the best quarterback in the NFL this season. Now, Joe Burrow would like to have a conversation, but at the same time, when you look at Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson went out there and they beat the Cincinnati Bengals not once but twice this season. He had 4 passing touchdowns in both matchups. And you can say the Bengals defense, that they're bad. The Baltimore Ravens defense, for half of this season, they had the worst passing defense in the NFL, and yet they were still winning games because of Lamar Jackson and how ferocious they were up front with stopping the run. This has to be the year for Lamar Jackson. You had the top defense in the NFL last year. You weren't able to go out there and deliver on the Super Bowl. Now, the defense has taken a step back in terms of total defense, but the passing defense in the last 8 games, they're top 10, and they have the best rushing defense in the NFL. They're heading into the right direction as being a complete team in the AFC. And when I look at the lay of the land, when they lost against the Steelers in that first matchup, that was not on Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson played well enough to win that game. They had drops in that first matchup. Justin Tucker missed field goals, and he did throw an interception, but that wasn't on him. He throws the football to Justice Hill. Here comes Peyton Wilson out of nowhere. And he intercepts the ball. He takes the ball out of Justice Hill's hands. That's not on Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson did miss some throws, yes, but that's going to happen in every single matchup. Lamar Jackson played well enough to beat the Steelers in that first encounter, and they lost that game by 2 points. The second time that they went out there and they beat the Steelers, Lamar Jackson played very well. Derrick Henry took over the game, and the defense had a pick 6 in that matchup. Complementary football. I feel like we always forget when quarterbacks go out there, they get so much praise when they win games, and they get so much blame when they lose. At the end of the day, it's a team game. Both sides of the ball have to step up. Lamar Jackson against the Buffalo Bills this year, a team that's a contender in the AFC. I understand that this was many months ago, but it still happened this season. They went out there and they blew out the Buffalo Bills. They beat them in one of the worst ways possible on Sunday Night Football, 35-10. And Lamar Jackson only had 156 passing yards and 2 passing touchdowns. They're going out there now on a weekly basis and they're beating teams with their run game and with their defense. They're playing complementary football for the first time all season long in terms of playing in stretches. This has to be a Super Bowl year. The excuses are running out for Lamar Jackson. You look at Zay Flowers. He's a true number one wide receiver. In the past, you can make the case that Lamar Jackson did not play with a true number one wide receiver. They couldn't go out there in free agency and bring in a guy because they don't want to play with a team that runs the football majority of the time. They drafted Zay Flowers. In year number 2, he's been phenomenal. He has over 1,000 receiving yards and 4 receiving touchdowns. Rashard Bateman has dealt with injuries early on in his career. The last 2 years, he's been very good. 8 receiving touchdowns on the season. Mark Andrews is fully healthy this year. He's been very good. And you have Isaiah Likely. You have 2 tight ends that can kill you over the top and that can kill you underneath. Lamar Jackson has a plethora of weapons at his disposal. And you have Nelson Aguilar with Derrick Henry in the backfield with you. So the excuses, they're running out for Lamar Jackson. Yes, the coaching has to be on point. But Lamar Jackson, you have to make good of this. You're not going to run into too many situations like this in your career, especially when you're a top-paid quarterback like Lamar Jackson. The general manager has done his job by bringing in the elite talent, by drafting elite talent and putting Lamar Jackson on the field and surrounding him by this talent. When I look at this defense, when I look at the defensive names, there's a lot of unsung heroes on this defense. You look at Oweh, he has 9 sacks on the season. Roquan Smith is still one of the best linebackers in the NFL. Kyle Van Noy, you look at him, 11.5 sacks on the season, 2 forced fumbles. The entire front 7 have combined as a whole to have the second most sacks in the NFL. They can get after the quarterback, and they're starting to play very well on the back end with Kyle Hamilton, who is one of the best players to have on your team. Regardless of position, this man is a great football player. He can play outside corner, nickel corner, single high safety, in-box safety. You can put the man at linebacker position. He is a very good, versatile player. And I will say this about Zachary Orr. I have a lot of questions about him within the first month of the season. But as the season has progressed, he has become a better defensive coordinator. And a lot of the chunk plays they gave up on the back end came down to miscommunication. They haven't had those problems in the last 8 games. Even against the Philadelphia Eagles, the defense played well. The offense just was not able to go out there and match what the defense was giving on the field. And the defense gave them a very good effort. Yes, Saquon Barkley went out there. He had a good day, the same with Jalen Hurts. But Lamar Jackson was able to go out there and capitalize in certain situations on 2nd and 3rd down. But when I look at the secondary, it's more than just Marlon Humphrey, who's been very good this season, than the same with Brandon. I look at Ardarius Washington. This man is 5'8". And when you look at him on film, you will swear that he is 6'4". He's making huge play after huge play. 2 interceptions on the season, 7 pass deflections. And you have Nate Wiggins. I love the trade that they made a couple of months ago when they brought in Tre'Davious White. Tre'Davious White is not a starting corner on a consistent basis anymore because he tore his Achilles in the past and he tore his ACL. But this is a man, he's a veteran cornerback. He was a very good player for many years with the Buffalo Bills. He just cannot find playing time on the field with the Los Angeles Rams. So he wanted to go somewhere else. He comes over to the Baltimore Ravens. You look at him in key situations, you'll see him guarding George Pickens when it's 3rd down because he's a technically sound corner. He's not going to get those penalties like some of the other young corners on this team, like a Nate Wiggins, who I do believe long-term is going to be a very good player in the secondary. But that's why you have those veterans, so they could come in, they can help out those young players, and they can give those young players a breather. And Tre'Davious White has playoff experience. So when I look at the Ravens, right now, in my opinion, this is the biggest Super Bowl or bust team in the NFL. Last season, you had a lot of people criticizing Lamar Jackson, the fact that he won the MVP, and Brock Purdy and Christian McCaffrey. Statistically, they had better numbers. But Lamar Jackson on the field was doing a lot of things that most quarterbacks can't do. When I look at the AFC also, you have the Kansas City Chiefs. This team barely lost to the Kansas City Chiefs in week 1. And these are 2 different teams now. The Chiefs are on a different level, and the same with the Ravens. But they lost that game by a toe. Isaiah Likely had his toe out of bounds. And if Lamar Jackson and Zay Flowers are on the same page earlier in that game, if he throws the football in the middle of the field and they go for 2, maybe they go out there and they win that matchup. It shouldn't have came down to Isaiah Likely and his toe being out of bounds. Guys have to be on the same page in crucial moments. When I look at the Steelers, I like the Steelers roster. I like what they have. I think the Baltimore Ravens right now are just a better team. And they showed that a couple of weeks ago when they went out there and they defeated the Steelers. And yes, Russell Wilson had a crucial fumble in the red zone. He had that pick 6. Those are defensive plays. That's football. It's going to happen. And when I look at the Buffalo Bills, I don't believe that the Buffalo Bills match up very well with the Baltimore Ravens. 2 different teams now since they last faced each other. True. But Lamar Jackson has gotten better. with the pieces around him. The offense has played better. And at that time, the defense, especially on the back end, they were horrible. It was a stretch at the beginning portion of this season that this team was dead last in passing defense. Dead last. Now they're 30th. Still not good. But in the last 8 weeks, they've been consistent. They've been one of the best passing defenses in the NFL over the last 8 weeks. This has to be the year for Lamar Jackson. This has to be the year for Coach Harbaugh, or major changes are going to have to happen. They have put stacked roster year in and year out around Coach Harbaugh and around Lamar Jackson. A playoff win or two, that's nice for most organizations. If you're the Atlanta Falcons, that's nice for you. If you're a team like the Carolina Panthers and you go out there, you make the playoffs, you win a playoff game or two, hey, that's good. That's good enough for them. For the Ravens, that's not good enough. It is Super Bowl or bust for this team and for Lamar Jackson. If you ask me right now who is my NFL MVP, when I look at the numbers, it will be Lamar Jackson. Patrick Mahomes, you can say he'll be in that conversation. The numbers aren't adding up with Patrick Mahomes. Josh Allen has been very good this year. 28 passing touchdowns and 6 interceptions. And I understand he's doing more with less. It is what it is. Lamar Jackson has done that in the past, and he's lost the MVP award to other guys. So right now, I think that I'll go with Lamar Jackson as the MVP. They have to go out there and they have to defeat the Cleveland Browns. And what is so interesting, in that first matchup against the Cleveland Browns, they lost that game. The defense dropped 4 interceptions in that matchup, and Rashard Bateman dropped a huge ball across the middle of the field because he had the sun in his eyes. I guarantee you, when the sun is out, he'll have a visor in the next matchup. But let me know in the comment section below, is this the biggest Super Bowl or bust team in the NFL in your opinion? If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, hit the like button. Most importantly, want each and every last one of you guys stay safe, stay positive. Thanks for the video, guys. God bless. Peace.